Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is coming under increasing pressure to hold a vote on the Keystone XL pipeline, with Senate supporters of the long-delayed project unveiling a bill this week that would bypass the Obama administration and authorize its immediate construction. The legislation, introduced Thursday by Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu of Louisiana and Republican Senator John Hoeven of North Dakota, is sponsored by all 45 Senate Republicans and 11 Democrats, many of whom are facing tough re-election campaigns this year. For more, I'm joined by Wall Street Journal Assistant Editorial Page Editor James Freeman and Washington columnist Kim Strassel. So, Kim, fill us in here on the politics of this. Harry Reid wants to block anything from passing the Senate and desperately avoid anything getting to President Obama's desk that he might have to veto. Senate Democrats want a vote to show they're in favor of it. How does Harry wriggle out of this one?
Yeah, well, Harry really is in a rock and a hard place. The White House does not want this because its environmental left will go nuts, and they're worried about losing the money of billionaires like Tom Steyer, who've offered to spend $100 million to get Democrats elected in this midterm.
And this money is really what they want. They're after, right?
Yeah, they want this $100 million to be in some of their most vulnerable races, and they know it will go away if they approve this pipeline. On the other hand, you've got people like Mary Landrieu down in Louisiana or Mark Pryor in Arkansas who are getting beat up because of their party's inaction on this pipeline and are demanding a vote.
So how does Harry Reid get out of it?
So Harry Reid does what he always does. He is attempting to try to find a way in which his guys get to vote for it, but the legislation doesn't even matter, either because it's a non-binding resolution, because the White House is able to veto it, but he's trying to cut the cookie so that everybody gets something that they want.
But can he stop it from getting the 60 votes it needs in the Senate to get through? Remember, the House has already passed this many, many times. So if it does pass the Senate, then it will get to the president's desk. Can he find some way to block it in the Senate?
Well, there could be. I mean, look, right now there's about 56 members that are publicly on board with this. There are several more, at least 6 more Democrats who in the past have voted in a non-binding fashion for legislation like this. So they're going to be under a lot of pressure to vote this time. He may not be able to stop the 60 votes. One of his games, though, is going to be try to keep this in a manner that the White House could veto it if it needed to.
Okay, speaking of Mary Landrieu, let's listen to one of her ads as she's running for re-election.
For years, she's forced Washington to respect Louisiana.
The administration's policies are simply wrong when it comes to oil and gas production in this nation.
Like stopping offshore drilling.
Nothing about this moratorium makes sense. Nothing.
So she forced it to end.
Just Louisiana. It's 300,000 people that go to work every day in this industry. You can't just beat up on them.
You got to admire a professional at work, James. I mean, what party is she from again?
Yeah, but I think that raises the problem she has, which is if Harry Reid manages to, with the president to prevent once again this pipeline from being built, her candidacy has no premise, because what she's saying is, you got to keep me as the chairman of the Energy Committee to keep my influence. What influence? No pipeline, no end to the export ban on crude oil, not much in terms of exporting liquefied natural gas. So the anti-energy policies stay the same if you buy her argument. I don't get it.
And what about the underlying political strategy that Kim just described? They're doing because they want the $100 million from the anti-Keystone people to help them in their vulnerable candidates who are getting killed because they're not in favor of Keystone.
I would argue it's even more than $100 million, because while that's the figure Tom Steyer says he's going to spend and raise, there's also a lot of other big money on the left going in here.
Right, yeah, it's
environmental money.
Absolutely, but you have to go back to her main problem is Obamacare. I know we're talking about energy.
Mary Landrieu,
just like a lot of these other incumbents who were the 60th vote, were looking good last summer. Since then, they're now polling in the low 40s. She's trying to change the subject, and it looks like Harry Reid is not helping her, because now we're going to a subject that's not going to end up with a win for her.
Kim, let's talk about another Democratic candidate who's up involved, Mark Udall of Colorado. He's came out of the environmental movement. He he did not vote for Keystone the last time, even on the symbolic vote, non-binding resolution. But now he faces a tough challenger in Cory Gardner, a Republican representative. Is he going to change his vote? What's the pressure on him?
Well, look, this is why Reid and the White House are nervous. There are a growing number of Democrats, as James says, they're under pressure because of Obamacare, because of the economy, and they see energy as a safe harbor. This is a way for them to look pro-growth, look as though they care about jobs, look about they're really plumping for an American industry. So you've now had guys like Mark Udall, who were supposed to represent this new Western environmentalist Democrat. You know, up till now, it's all been windmills and solar panels. Suddenly now he cannot say enough nice things about natural gas, and he's under pressure to do the same on Keystone and other issues.